so now this primer is dried overnight and is ready for us to sand. It's been probably almost 24 hours since I sprayed it. So I'm going to go ahead and scuff this down because it's not tacky anymore, so it needs to be sanded before we continue painting. And I'm going to be using a 600 grit no-load paper for that. Not the wet stuff, just a no-load with a foam backing on. This has a, let me get in closer so I can show you what I'm talking about. There's the paper. It's got a slight foam backing, which will allow it to get into the little bit of texture on here a little easier. So I'll be doing the amp and the grill, and I'm going to try and, this will also allow me to go around the corners nicely. I'm going to try and smooth this out a little bit to get rid of just a little bit more of that texture, and then it'll be ready for us to begin the painting. And by the painting, I mean the color. Remember, when you're sanding, you don't want to use your fingers to apply the pressure, because your fingers will leave grooves. They're probably not going to be very noticeable on something like a guitar amplifier, but it's always best practice not to do that, especially when you're working with a flat surface. So although it's natural to try and use your fingers because you get good pressure with them, it's always better to use the palm of your hand if you can, because it's a more even surface and will distribute the pressure more evenly. Alright guys, so once you've scuffed up your primer and you're ready to spray, don't forget to clean it again. I went ahead and did that off camera because I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me clean for half the video. I'm not Martha Stewart. But anyway, make sure you clean it up. You don't want any dust in your paint job, and the easiest way to get dust in your paint job is to leave dust on your product when you're painting it. So now we're ready to go ahead and start painting. I'm putting down my base coat red here, which is AutoAir's Borne Crimson. So if you're wondering why I'm spraying so lightly, it's because I'm using a waterborne acrylic for this. And those are designed to be sprayed on very lightly. If you're using something other than that, you're going to need to spray it a little heavier to get a little bit more flow. This stuff is all mechanical adhesion, which is part of why I scuff this. So it doesn't really need to go on heavy with the solvents in it because they're not going to evaporate anyway. So with that said, let's begin. Spray somewhere where you can see it. Alright, so that's it for our base coat Crimson. Next up, now it's ready for another coat. I did 3 of those. Sorry, I should have clarified that. Next up we have the Iridescent Red. So I've already got my base color on here. Because I'm using the acrylic paint, all I'm going to need to do here is dust on a light coat of this. So I could have mixed some pearl into my red previously, but this iridescent paint is pretty specific. What it's going to do is it's going to look like a pearl, and it's going to have a bit of a shift in hue as you're walking by it. It's a very light red, and that's why I use the crimson underneath to kind of offset that to give a deeper shade. So 1 or 2 very light coats of this, and we'll see where that takes us. Once again, I'll try and start with something where you can actually see it, although from that angle you probably won't be able to, but let's see. Alright, our iridescent paint is now dry. So next up we have the airbrushing, which is very simple for this piece. It's just going to be black around the inside of these cavities and a nice black vignette around the corners to kind of give it almost a burst-like look. So, got my airbrush and just some AutoAir transparent black, which I haven't bothered to reduce because I don't want it to be too transparent, and also I'm not really having to pull any detail. test it out. Alright. Now this is a 0.35 nozzle on this airbrush. I could be getting this done faster with a 0.5 nozzle, but I want to make sure that I do have a reasonable amount of control here, and with a 0.35 I should have way more control than I'll ever need. Okay, the real reason I'm not using my 0.5 is because it's safe and fed, and I didn't really want to bother cleaning it out after. It takes longer. Alright guys, I'm going to finish airbrushing in this vignetted look, and once that's completed, this will be ready for clear coat. Now, clear coating is kind of a pain to film. The stuff gets everywhere, it wrecks cameras and whatnot, so I'm not actually going to film that process. If you are interested in the clear coat that I use, it's a catalyzed polyurethane for stuff like this. You need a spray gun to use it. It needs to be mixed. So if you're interested in that, I do have a video about how to clear coat a guitar that shows the clear coat, how it's mixed, everything like that. It discusses it in a little more depth, and it shows the spraying process. I just filmed it from a distance and zoomed in. So feel free to take a look at that if you're interested, and if not, well then don't. I will show you the finished product once it's ready. Alright guys, here's our finished product. Bright orange grill, darker vignette, iridescent red paint, and a pretty shiny amp. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.